I told you this was going to be good, didn't I? Didn't I tell you? We're just getting started, too. Let me tell you something. I just want to say one thing before we introduce our next speaker, which I will be introducing, and that is that Ronald Reagan once said, and I'm paraphrasing, that if we as Americans just follow the 10 Commandments, that's it. That's it. Just follow the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, so on. You know the rest. The top 10. We wouldn't have 80% of the problems that we do in this country. Folks, our principles, our conservative Judeo-Christian principles, are based on one thing and one thing alone: common sense. It's what works for society. It's what works for a culture. Common sense. If we restore common sense, doesn't matter whether you're liberal or Democrat, we're going to have a peaceful society. We have a chaotic society because we don't follow common sense and because we don't follow the 10 Commandments, which benefit everyone as a whole. So keep that in mind the next time you're talking to your liberal friends. Do you have common sense? Just ask them. You know how that commercial, you got milk? You got common sense? You got common sense, you'll agree with us, right? All right. You got common sense? All right. I just had to get that in. Sorry. Our next speaker is the Lieutenant Governor of Florida. We're proud to have him here this morning with us, and he's also running for Attorney General candidate. Won't you please join me in welcoming Jeff Cockyan.
Thank you. Buenos dias. Good morning. It's great to be with you. I thought I would just introduce myself just a little bit and talk about how important this race is. I have a son, a 5-year-old Jackson. My wife and I, Cindy, have been married for 15 years. I am a born-again Christian and very proud to say that publicly everywhere I go. I'm proud to be endorsed by Congressman Lincoln Diaz-Balart, Mario Diaz-Balart, Alcalde Julio Rabano, Alcalde Tomas Regalado. I'm very proud of the support I have in this community. The first person from my family to go to college. I've dug ditches, I've unloaded trucks on the loading docks. I've laid sod, which I don't recommend. I know what it's like to go home at the end of the day covered in dirt and sweat from a hard day's work. My dad still gets up at 4:30 every day and drives a dump truck. So I come from humble beginnings, and I come before you as somebody that has fought for the principles of the Republican Party, the principles of faith, family, and freedom my entire life. And that's what drives me. That's what drives me. I was reading my 5-year-old a book about presidents on Sunday, and I had him on my lap, and he looked at the cover of the book, and on the cover it had some pictures of former presidents, and he said, "Daddy, isn't that Bill Clinton?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Well, Daddy, why is he on this book? I thought only Republicans could be president."
God's wish.
From your lips to God's ears. We try to teach him right, but you know, we're in a crisis mode in this country. 50% of the children in America aren't taught history and civics. 50% of the children in America aren't taught their legacy as Americans. This is the first country in the history of mankind where the people said government is not the master, it's the servant. And it only has that power which we, the people, give it. This is the first country in the history of mankind where we put it in our founding documents. Everyone's equal. Doesn't matter where you came from. Doesn't matter who your family is. Doesn't matter what side of the tracks you were born on. And every single person has certain natural rights. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. And what's most remarkable, as Americans, we don't believe that those rights are given to us by government. They are granted to us by God. That's why this country is the greatest country that ever exists. It is why people have come to the shores of this country since the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock until today. That's why Ronald Reagan called us the shining city on a hill. People know that they come here. They can use their God-given talents, work hard, and be all they can be. And all of that is at stake. It's always been part of the great American legacy that we could have a better life here, but even more importantly, our children could have even greater prosperity and greater freedom. But if we don't act in this election cycle and the next, this may be the first generation of Americans where that is not true. The stakes are so high. When we talk about the Attorney General's race, in most cycles this may not mean a lot to you. But in this one, it's the most important Attorney General's race in the history of Florida. Think about what the next Attorney General inherits. Florida's legal challenge that General McCollum has led the country in fighting Obamacare. Now, this is not a lawsuit about health care. It's about freedom and about whether or not the Constitution means what it says, whether or not the 10th Amendment means what it says, whether or not we as a people will draw a line in the sand and say to the federal government, enough is enough. We're not letting you get further and further and further into our daily lives. I've taken on the federal government. I've been licensed to practice for 22 years. I've taken on the federal government in federal court and won, and I'm not afraid of this fight. I look forward to it. The stakes are so high. And you saw just what happened in California. That's coming to us too. I've already spoken out. I'm going to ask that our state join the fight to defend traditional marriage. We've got to defend the family. You know, that decision may have been in California, but we're next. We're next. And too many people fought too hard to make sure that in Florida we sent a loud, clear message that we believe in the traditional family. That is under attack. Everything that we believe in as Christians is under attack. And we've got to fight back. We have got to fight back, and the next Attorney General will have much of this work to do. And a lot of these issues, anybody can stand up here and say, I'm pro-life. I am. But like you, I haven't just said it, I've done something about it. You don't have to be elected to fight for the issues that you believe in. In fact, most of you in this room have fought for these issues. I sponsored the parental notice of abortion bill signed into law by Governor Bush. I didn't just say I was pro-life, I did something about it. That's why Florida Right to Life has endorsed me. That's why John Stemberger has endorsed me, because I have a proven track record of fighting for life issues. I'm not just pro-Second Amendment, I've done something about it. When people were getting prosecuted for using deadly force against intruders that were threatening their families, I helped pass laws to protect citizens and protect your Second Amendment rights. You think about how thoughtful our founding fathers were. They knew that over time we would look to the First Amendment, to freedom of speech, to freedom of religion. These things in the First Amendment we would hold dear. But they also knew this. The last best defense against government tyranny is the ability of the citizens to arm themselves. That's why right behind the First, they put the Second Amendment, that right to arm yourself. Let me say something else about, I get so fired up about coming to Miami. There are no people in America that understand how great the challenges are, and no people in America that understand what's happening right now, how close we are to losing our freedom. You know, all over this community, there are families that have experienced that firsthand. Matter of fact, I was at Radio Mambi. They have a bumper sticker on the front window when you go in that says they asked for change in Havana in 1959. Be careful what you ask for.
That's right.
You know, be careful. You know, Ronald Reagan gave a speech in 1964 called A Time for Choosing. The country had two very clear paths it could choose back then, and we chose the wrong path. The path of bigger government, higher taxes, looking for governments for solutions. We're still paying for that today. But as you sit in this room, in this moment in history, this is our generation's time for choosing. The decisions that we make in the next 2 election cycles will determine the fate of this country for the next 50 to 100 years, if not forever. The stakes are that high. The stakes are that high. Let me just close with 2 things. Well, often you'll hear a politician, usually a Democrat politician in Washington, D.C., say, I'll fight for the regular guy. I'll fight for the average citizen, the ordinary citizen. I'll tell you something. I'll never say that. And here's why. Because I don't believe that the guy that picks up your trash the same day every week, who shows up at the end of your driveway to get your trash, who works 12 hours a day, who goes home at the end of the day covered in dirt and sweat and probably smelly, and as he gets home, his 2 children come running up the driveway yelling, "Daddy, Daddy." That guy that pays his taxes, takes care of his family, he's not average. He's not ordinary. He's not regular. He's extraordinary. The woman that gets up at 5 in the morning and puts on her scrubs, and she goes to work at the hospital, and if you've been a nurse or you know a nurse, on her feet all day. And she goes home at the end of the day and she's got blood on her and who knows what else. But maybe on the way home she stops at Circle K and she gets a couple of Slurpees for her kids. And when they hear that doorknob turn and she comes into the door and they run to the door yelling, "Mommy, Mommy," she's not average. She's not ordinary. She's extraordinary. When my dad gets up at 4:30 in the morning to drive his dump truck, he's not average either. He's my hero. He taught me work ethic. And all I know is this. If we want to turn this country around, all we have to do is turn it over to the American people. There are no ordinary Americans. We're an extraordinary people. And if we rely on the talents, the energy, the innovation of Americans, we'll be bigger, better, more prosperous, and freer than ever before. That's the way to turn this country around. I'm endorsed by 21 out of 28 Republican sheriffs for a reason. I've been passing laws, fighting to be tough on crime my whole life. And I can just close with telling you this. If you honor me with your vote, I will do everything in my power to fight for your safety and to fight for your freedom. Thank you for having me. God bless each and every one of you. And God bless the rest of the world.